Good morning. How are you this morning? It's Thursday, May 5th, 2022. I'm John Shank, your host of Deerwood Realty's live stream. Who am I? Well, I'm the founder and managing broker of Deerwood Realty. So what we do is we help buyers buy homes, help sellers sell theirs, and we operate out of St. Louis, Missouri, mainly the South. Our office is in Afton, and that's who I am. When I get on the internet, I read and I see all kinds of information about real estate, and I've always been kind of fascinated by what I read versus what I actually see in person daily. Sometimes the information is just so far off that it's funny. But I think the news serves a useful purpose. I think that it shows us like, hey, here's an opinion, and you're welcome to have yours. And that had worked up until 2 or 3 years ago, maybe actually 5 years ago, when you weren't allowed to have an opinion online if it countered the narrative. And so bizarre times we are in. Some people don't even notice, some people don't care, and that's fine. I just get up and go to work every day, I guess, and that's that. I am not with the program right now. I am just getting going for the morning. We have rain, like so much rain right now. It started last night and it just keeps raining and raining and raining. I have to go show a condo at about 12:30. Showing houses in the rain, showing condos in the rain. Somewhat interesting, somewhat terrible. If there's a basement that leaks, well, you'll see the water come right through. Your shoes are all wet, and so you kind of don't want to wear your shoes in the house. And then when you take your shoes off, you put your socks on, or you have your socks on. And so when you're walking with your socks, then people that have walked before you with shoes on that were wet, now your socks are wet. It's not fun. I know you say, well, John, that's not the worst thing in the world that can happen to someone. And you're right. You're right. I mean, there's people out there working today in muddy holes and whatnot. So I agree. There's a saying in real estate that says no one ever buys houses when it rains. And oddly enough, from what I've seen in my career, it's not necessarily just rain. It's bad weather in general. If it snows, you're not getting any showings. If you got a holiday, probably not getting any showings. If it's, if it's even cloudy or cold, you probably aren't getting any showings. If it's dark, you aren't getting any showings. There's a lot to do with your environment when you decide to buy a house. It's very strange. I don't think it's logical. I don't think you can prove it. It's just something that I've kind of picked up on over the years, and it's kind of true. So is today a wasted showing? Probably. But then again, I mean, how many houses do you sell by not showing any of them? This is the dilemma of the real estate agent. I think I should address some of the embarrassing things that have happened over the past couple of days, because I think it helps me get it out, not rattle around my head. Let me get a drink. I am a perfectionist. You may mock me, but I am, and I have to fight perfectionist tendencies all the time. I have to fight them in order to produce something. Or else, nothing would ever get done. I would just sit there and try and revise something and revise something and revise something until it was, it didn't make any sense, because you just have all the time in it. So let's talk about some things that are messing with my perfection. One, 2 days ago, as I told you, I pulled a clip for one of my live streams about a sensitive topic that wasn't sensitive topic to me because it was talking about the failure of someone to recognize that it was a sensitive topic. So there's the irony already. But I got some notices from YouTube and others that's like, hey, this is not okay. Like, you can't do this. Like, I was so taken aback by it because I had no idea that what I was doing was bad. Like, it made me, it shook me. It's not like, I'm personally not a free speech warrior. I don't like when YouTube, cancels someone. I'm kind of like, okay, I'm sorry that happened. I'm also deathly afraid of being canceled because I put hours into this show. I know it sometimes maybe doesn't look that way, but I mean, it takes hours to do some of this stuff. And I don't even highly edit my videos. I don't highly edit them on purpose. I think you should see exactly what you're getting if you were to call me to buy a house or sell a house. I don't want to be someone who I'm not. I don't need an online persona. But whenever you do get, a slap on the wrist from an authority figure, it's kind of like, what happened? And so it shook me because, the realization is that you're like one bad saying away from getting thrown off YouTube. You say one thing wrong, you're out. And so you're sitting there on pins and needles all the time. And this is why free speech is so important. If somebody can control your speech, they can control your thoughts. And so even though you're not, even though I'm not a free speech warrior, I understand it because I can see it happening in my own sphere. So frightening stuff, but also disappointing because I try to like YouTube's community guidelines and my community guidelines aren't exactly lined up perfectly. And so I don't even know sometimes when I do something wrong. And so like when that happened, it did shake me. Like I honestly don't want to hurt anyone. Like I don't want anyone to be hurt. I want to have fun with my live stream. I want to have fun with my community that I'm building by myself, I guess, because I have no one ever on my live streams. But, that shook me. And then so it's been in the back of my mind for a while now, 2 days. I don't know how I don't know even know for this particular case, I saw an article on Google Trends and I just reported on what I saw on the article. I didn't I would have always, honestly, I would have thought that if you had to run afoul of Google's rules, it would have had to been like bringing something from outside of Google or YouTube. And that would have been the issue. So that was a surprise. Will it change going forward? I don't know, because like I said, I don't know. I had no idea that I had crossed a particular line in that space. And then yesterday we had a massive failure on a live stream, and I wanted to share that with you because I think it's funny. Yesterday I didn't hit the transition button when I went into the main part of the show, and so basically, if you look at yesterday's, and I'll point it out to you. This is the 5th of May. If you look at the episode from the 4th of May, you will see me talking and pointing out things in houses that we looked at and pointing out things in articles that we read about that you can't see because I hit the wrong button. I didn't check it. Now, my excuse is that I made a mistake. I've been working on a screen share. I help teach things on a screen share. And so when I used screen share the day before, I was just used to it being sharing the screen that I was on. So I had no issue. And then, so when I switched over to the other software that I use for the live streams, I didn't see it. I didn't realize the mistake was there. And while I checked the chat I don't check it very often because I don't often have anybody in the chat. So it's like, why would I check it? And so I really bungled yesterday, and I thought about it, and there were like two kind of schools of thought. One, I'm sorry, Mom. Oh. One, do you take it down? Pretend that it didn't happen. Or two, leave it up and, be mocked for it because it was stupid. I'll go with number two because maybe that will help me learn to not screw it up again. Now, I've made errors on live streams before. I think early on when I was on the Deerwood Realty channel doing live streams, one time I coughed. Or no, that's it. It was true. I coughed and it was like phlegm came out, and then it came down my chin while I was trying to do a live stream. It was pretty terrible. And so that was embarrassing. I think I edited that out. I can't remember the exact episode, but I think I edited that out because that was gross. And then there's been times where I've been, when I've been sick and I still do a live stream, and it's just coughing and hacking and just just trying to make it through the live stream. And then maybe 2 weeks ago, one of the first Our Nature of Employment live streams went pretty funny in that I fell asleep while I was talking. I had a food coma. It was like 9, like the live stream is at 9 at night. And I had gone to dinner with my wife, had a lovely dinner, and came home and just got into the live stream. And I was doing fine. But about 9:20, I started feeling a little sleepy. 9:40, I just stopped. Like, I was just reading online. And by 9:50, I was reading and falling asleep at the same time. And so what happened was, it wasn't that, I was so tired. It wasn't that it was like, oh, you need to stay awake. No, it was, oh my God, I need to wake up. And so I'd be reading, and all of a sudden I'd shout these inappropriate things. Inappropriate in the sense that they weren't related to what I was talking about. And I've gone back and so it was a food coma. And so what happens or at least with me, is like, if I fall asleep for maybe a little bit, I wake up, I'm wide awake, everything's fine. And so I didn't know how bad it was. And I went that evening after I'd fallen asleep for 10 minutes, I went back and replayed it, and it was just crazy. It was just crazy. It would just be this, every once in a while, there'd just be shouting out of something. Made no sense. But I also left that one up. That's on Our Nature of Employment. I don't remember the exact episode because I just do them all the time. I don't like, I wanted to go over like the YouTube world for you, in my head at least. So this morning I wake up, and the first thing that happens is I'm on my email, and Facebook says they're stopping podcasts. They're not going to broadcast podcasts anymore. Now, my podcast, I have a Deerwood Realty and Friends podcast that I do pretty much daily during the week, in addition to the live stream and the live stream at night. And for Facebook, it just shoots over there. It just auto fills. It's no big deal by RSS. So that's no big deal. But that disappeared this morning. So now I've got to figure out with that channel, with that page, do I post new episodes on it? I don't think you could have any answer other than yes. You have to. But now I got to go out there and I got to connect it to my system. So what do I think about that? Well, I think of all the things I do, my main channel has the most subscribers, and I don't exactly know how or why, but it does. And so on that, is it disappointing, I guess, that I don't have anything coming through on the live stream? Not really. Or on the podcast, it doesn't really, it wasn't like people were going to the Facebook page and saying, oh, this is great. Sign me up for this. I don't even know if I had any followers. I have I don't know, I have a few Facebook pages. And so there's that. And then, like I had Our Nature of Employment live stream, and last night, I might talk about it again tonight, but I read some stuff that blew my mind. It was outside of my comfort zone. And to me, it was funny because I don't know why. It was funny because like it was obviously someone in a world that was totally different than mine, and everything they read made total sense to them. And then when I looked at it from my perspective, it was insanity. It's just insanity. So I was like, I felt like I was bringing forth a voice that wasn't my own, and it was good for the audience to kind of hear it. So that was that. Now I lost my train of thought. I was going to do two things about life as a YouTuber, but the other thing is on YouTube, like you always want viewers, you always want subscribers, you always want views, and you always want like a length of time. So you want like an average length of time. I have an hour live stream. You'd like people to be on the whole time, but they're not. People come and go. So anyway, it's ups and downs. Today is a down. You can even tell by my voice. It's just a down day, and it's a buttoned up day. Now I have to still get out clips. I still have to do all that. So I just stared at the screen just to see what would happen. Today is rough. Like there's so much to do. Kind of dicey. So what should I do? What should I say? I don't want to get too, like, I feel like if I get past about 1 o'clock today, there's a chance. But even then, like the whole day is dicey. And when I say get through, I sort of mean just like not have something go horribly wrong. So with that, I think we're going to head into the show. I don't know if I have any material that I can use for a clip. I don't know if I have any material that I can use for anything right now. So that's not a positive. That's not a positive. So let's get into the show. Ought to be interesting on the clips today. Let's get rid of this stuff because it's in the wrong spot. Let's go here. Okay. I just want to make sure I didn't screw something up. I probably did. Here we go. Do that. And we do this. It says the Fed raises interest rates by the most in over 20 years to fight inflation. And I need to do now. I need to do this because we're a real estate channel now. Yesterday we talked about how, or no, on a podcast we talked about how the interest rate isn't necessarily related to the mortgage rate. And that has held true, and we'll talk about that in a moment. But let's get into the article. The Fed raises interest rates by the most in over 20 years to fight inflation. Okay, it says the Federal Reserve ordered the largest interest rate hike in more than 2 decades Wednesday as part of its escalating campaign to battle stubbornly high inflation. The central bank raised its benchmark rate by half a percentage point, followed by a quarter-point increase in March. This move marks a sharp U-turn from the easy money policies the Fed had pursued through most of the pandemic. Now, I would just argue that why is it that they don't even talk about what the rate is? I think the rate is like 0.75%, I think. I mean, it's not that much. And the fact that we were at almost zero or we were at zero is really bad. So let's continue. Why? I mean, I think that should be part of it. If you raised it by X or Y or Z, you should tell us where it was. So let's look through the rest of the article if it's even in there. Inflation is much too high, and we understand the hardship it is causing, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell said, and we're moving expeditiously to bring it back down. Powell said that he and his colleagues would actively consider 2 additional half-point increases in their next 2 meetings in June and July, continuing a campaign that has high stakes for the U.S. economy. But Powell said that the Fed was not contemplating rate hikes larger than half a percentage point at a time, a comment that relieved investors. The Dow Jones Industrial Average soared more than 900 points while both the S&P 500 index and NASDAQ rose above 3%. Consumer prices in March were 6.6% higher than a year ago, according to the Fed's preferred inflation yardstick. That's the sharpest increase since 1982. Excluding volatile food and energy costs, prices were up 5.2%. Now look, like the fact that they exclude volatile energy and food costs is ridiculous. We can have near real-time data. I mean, near real-time reporting data, and yet we don't use those things. I'm in Missouri. I'm in St. Louis. I think I saw gas at like $3.99 regular unleaded yesterday. I mean, it's getting out of control for energy, and food is even more ridiculous. So anyway, let's continue. Inflation has been driven by strong consumer demand for both goods and services, which is outpacing the ability of businesses to deliver. Well, if that's what you think, Fed's fears of recession intensify. The Fed hopes to cool off demand by making it more expensive to borrow money. But interest rates are still low by historical standards, so the central bank will likely have to move aggressively to catch up, with another half-point increase expected at the next Fed meeting in June. Fed policymakers said in March that they expect rates to climb nearly 2% on average by the end of this year and close to 3% of it by the end of 2023. Now, those are their rates, so I'm just checking because I'm nervous about messing up my transition. I just saw something that caught my eye. Okay. Rising interest rates. Now, here, like we were talking about, it says they expect rates to climb to nearly 2% on average by the end of this year. Now, I think they were at 0. I think we're at 0.75 right now. Rising interest rates increase the cost of all kinds of credit, from auto loans to home mortgages. That's not exactly true. And we'll talk about that. Well, we talked about it on the podcast. Just watch that. Some analysts worry that it in its push to regain control over prices, the Fed risks causing a recession. But Powell expressed optimism that the central bank can curb inflation without stalling economic growth. I think we have a good chance to have a soft or softish landing, Powell said, noting that the families and businesses have amassed significant extra savings during the pandemic. Businesses are in good financial shape. The labor market is very, very strong, and so it doesn't seem to be anywhere close to a downturn. This is the same group of people that said that we weren't having inflation or that inflation was transitory. So to believe them on anything is pretty much just kind of a fool's errand. Inflation has been more stubborn than expected. For much of last year, the central bank blamed inflation on temporary supply chain problems tied to the pandemic, which were expected to ease on their own. Shortages of new cars and other products have persisted, though, and price increases have spread to more parts of the economy, including essentials such as rent and electricity. Russia's invasion of Ukraine this spring has triggered an additional spike in oil and food prices, which, according to the Fed themselves, they don't track because it's too volatile. And ongoing COVID lockdowns in China are likely to exacerbate supply chain disruptions. The Fed is also concerned that an exceptionally tight job market in the U.S. is pushing wages higher, which could fuel additional inflation. On Tuesday, the Labor Department reported a record number of job openings in March. Workers are also quitting jobs at a record rate, often in search of higher wages elsewhere. Unemployment, which approached 15% in the early month of the pandemic, has fallen to just 3.6%. That was ridiculous. In addition to raising interest rates, the Fed announced plans to begin gradually reducing its holdings of government bonds and mortgage-backed securities on June 1st. So there you have it. They raised the rates. And what we talked about here is they said that it will affect mortgage rates. Yes, but in the short term, it probably won't. It's not a one-for-one situation. So when the Fed raises 50 basis points, it doesn't mean that 30-year mortgages go up 50 basis points. I just wanted to point that out. And then I wanted to also mention that in the context of the 30-year fixed rate at Deerwood Realty. 30-year fixed actually went down. It was 5.54% yesterday. It's 5.5% today. This is after the announcement. So he really, I personally think that we've got real problems in the economy. I personally think that what they mentioned, let me get out of transition, even though it could kill me down the road. I personally think that people are leaving their jobs because the jobs don't pay well enough. And they're moving to jobs that do pay or trying to, but they're kind of stuck in this situation where they can't move up. I think that's the problem. I mean, if you take a job and it pays you a quarter an hour more, or even like $2,000 or $3,000 more, at the end of the day, you really didn't get anywhere. And so the reason they say why people are quitting their jobs is because of bad managers, bad working conditions. They think that even if they can go somewhere else where the working conditions are better, the people aren't assholes. That would be a good thing. And so, as we go on here, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the housing market. Does it have major consequences when mortgage rates go up? Yes, but let's couch that in what's going on right now in the mortgage market, or in the housing market. I'm sorry. We're seeing people offer asking price, which likely will appraise, and then they're bidding over asking by 10, 15, 20%, which probably won't allow the house to appraise. And then these buyers are saying, okay, well, even if the house doesn't appraise, I want it, and I'm willing to pay in cash the difference between the appraisal and what I've agreed to purchase it for. This to me is odd. Could we call it a commentary on the true value of money, in the sense that people are willing to just burn it up front rather than put any sort of mortgage out? I mean, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen a house not appraise, but I've never seen people say, even if it doesn't appraise, we'll buy it. So, I mean, it ought to be fascinating to continue down this path. Will you kill the housing market if mortgage rates get to like 7 and 8%? It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. So, I mean, I have concerns. My business has been odd for the past 2 years. While it's great to have listings, I've had very few listings and I have a ton of buyers. And I suspect that when the market goes the other direction, I'll have a ton of sellers and not any buyers. It seems like I'm always the one that's getting the short end of the stick on this. Like, on the buyer side, it's like, why did you put me in this house that, is overpriced when the market goes down? And then when people want to sell their houses, why did you think that the house will sell for so little? It's always me. I don't understand. I'm just responding to the economic factors that I'm involved with. So anyway, that's what I think about that. Let's go to luxury homes in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I will hit the button and we will go here. and we will go here. There's 3. I don't know if I've seen them before, but we'll just look. Okay, this house has been on the market for 61 days, $2.2 million. 8 bedrooms, 7.5 baths, 9,300 square feet on a 0.36 acre lot. 2-car garage built in 1891. So kind of amazing. Let's see the property details. It's not too big. Let's look. Breathtaking, stunning, and iconic best describe this rare Milwaukee mansion known as the Red Castle on Wells Street. Built in 1891, the Schuster mansion is filled with hardwood floors, which is HWFs in this one, period woodwork, pocket doors, high ceilings, and beautifully restored features of the era. With approximately 9,300 square feet spanning 3 floors, this amazing residence is currently a successful bed and breakfast, impeccably cared for and preserved by the current owner. Comfortable parlors, former dining room, library, conservatory, and delightful kitchen grace the first floor. 4 full bedroom suites, 3 single rooms, very spacious innkeeper's quarters complete the upper levels, beautifully appointed, surrounded by lovely landscaping, Victorian gardens, and paver and stone patios centrally located minutes to downtown and the lakefront. 130 pictures is too much for me. I'm not going to look at that many, but let's look at the property history. Just listed in March. So that's cool. Let's take a look at some of the first pictures. So there's the front. It's cool looking. It's definitely kept the old school look to it. The question I would have is that if it's, if we're at 2.2 million, that's because the house is worth that, or are we considering this an investment property? It's just to me, it's just nice to see different things. The yard is really great. The problem with this house is I have no idea where I am. Like when I'm looking at this stuff, like, okay, I'm in the bathroom here, but I saw a picture just like this, like in picture number 3 or 5. So was it the same? I mean, where are we? What are we doing here? That's my issue. Boy, it looks really well maintained for being from 1891. Like I feel like I've seen this before. Okay. Well, that's that. I'm not going to look at it anymore. 50 pictures is enough. Okay, let's look at this house. You know what I think about houses that don't show the first picture. I mean, now I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know anything. Anyway, $1.9 million, 8,850 square feet, 8 bedrooms, 7.5 baths on a half-acre lot for the most part. 40 days on the market, 3-car garage built in 1928. Property details. Iconic 1929 Lannonstone slate roof Tudor revival mansion built for real estate developer Robert Hackett by noted MKE architect Eschweiler, a true gem. Flowing floor plan for entertaining, 7-day Airbnb VRBO approved. Imagine. 8 beds, 6 ensuite with 7 full baths, 2 half baths, new down to the plumbing. Foyer stuns with 2-story leaded glass window facing Lake Drive. Shorewood Nature Preserve with peaks of lake views and acts as your unofficial direct lake access. All new open kitchen boasts white quartz, Mail, I don't even know the word, and GE Cafe appliances. Spacious eat-in area with wet bar, sunny office with NFP. I don't know what NFP is. Maybe you do. Formal living room with second NFP. I don't know what that is. Open, elegant, stone arched patio, private wall, double lot, cathedral ceilings, and GFP. And master suite. Rec room with third NFP. wine room, gym room, and third floor playroom. Okay, chat. Tell me what NFP means. Nobody's in the chat. Okay. Well, I guess we will continue 25 pictures, and we don't have a picture of the front to start. Well, that's nice to go in, but I'd really like to see. Okay, here we go. Why is it cut off like this? Is this the back of the house? Are we really not showing the front of the house? The front of the house would be here or here? I don't care which. Just give me something to go on. Very odd. 25 pictures. And that almost like that tag leads me to believe like it's almost new, like they redid it. It's a cool house. That's why I don't understand why we don't have a picture of the front of it. Is it that ugly? Is it that atrocious? I really thought we'd get a picture of the front of the house. Now, why don't we have a picture of the front of the house? I don't know. Let's look at the property history. Maybe we can see some indication. Okay. Well, 2019, it was sold for $609,000. In 2022, it's all of a sudden been listed for significantly more. Was it a fix and flip? I don't know. Kind of interesting. I would like to see the front of the house at all times. This is me. Now, this is also on Lake Drive. It's also the same price, but it's a different address. Let's take a look at it. Now, Lake Drive, I mean, I think they say that because it's like the lake is right there. This has been on the market 12 days. It's a single family home built in 1929, 6 bedrooms, 4.5 baths, 8,117 square feet on a third of an acre lot. 25 pictures. I like that. Property details. Magnificent Milwaukee. Welcome to the historical Water Tower District's cherished Philip Coring mansion with soaring ceilings, grand sun-filled foyer with sweeping staircase, tall French windows, expansive doorways, and stunning sightlines throughout. Fabulous property for entertaining with just enough quiet personal space for family and friends. Filled with Milwaukee's most stunning architectural detail, including Orlandini plaster ceilings, Cyril Kolnick ironwork, hand-honed woodwork, grand marble fireplaces, garden room breezeway, and charming lower-level Rathskeller. You don't get a good Rathskeller very often in a listing. Private large lot in close-knit walkable neighborhood. Dreamy primary suite offers separate dressing room, grand bath, and spacious sunroom office. Third floor walk-up with additional bedrooms. Very special property. Okay. I mean, you say so. And it was just listed in April 22nd. So, okay. All right, let's take a look. Now, this is okay. I would like a picture of the front of the house myself. There we go. That should be the picture. Get rid of all the lights and all that BS because that's fake. And we would be good. Also, I would prefer like if we moved the camera up so I could see the entire top of the house. That's what I'd like to see. Ooh, look at that room. That is beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Kind of interesting. They got a little bar area right off of I think that's going to be the entrance. Look at the ceilings though. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. But I mean, the kitchen now, it needs some work. Oh, look at that. Yikes. I mean, really, like, did we need this like this? If I bought this house, if I had that money to buy that house, this would be gone. I mean, like the bathroom, this is fine, but that other bathroom would just be gone. There would not even have a chance to, that's cool looking. I know that this is in the bathroom, which is just wild. Look at that. All right. I'm okay with that. You say, well, John, there's only 25 pictures. I'm okay with that. I just want to see a little bit, making it, I want to be able to have an idea of, I'm going to do it again. I'm big on transitions today. I'm sorry. There. If I screw up, I screw up. But I don't think you have to have, 100 pictures on a listing. Just give me enough to see what I'm going to go see. And then in the description, put some of the things that you're going to have pictures of in the listing. That's the way to do it. All these people that put these random pictures or put 150 pictures in a listing, it just confuses people. And also it makes it so that I don't want to go, because I've now seen so many pictures of the place. I'm just bored. So my advice is just simply put in enough pictures. Always show the front of the house. Okay. That's stupid to not show the front of the house. Even if it's the most ugly house in the world, at least let people know about it ahead of time. And then as you go on, the description should have some keys as to what you're looking at in the pictures. I like a floor plan in the listing, but some people don't. But these descriptions, these property descriptions that are going, like 5 paragraphs, like a book, and 150 pictures. I mean, nobody wants to see that. No one likes a house that much. Just from the picture, it just doesn't work that way. So that's my advice on that. It'll be interesting to see how. I'm going to have to do this more often. I'm going to have to mark things to make it easier for me. It really ruins the flow of the show, but you know what? Not the only thing that ruins the flow of the show. There's me. Okay, now we're going to go back to the screen share, and we're going to go to our next property, our next article. And here it is. I thought this was interesting. It's from Realtor.com. They write good things. I mean, it really is a good resource for you if you're, looking at houses. I have no problem with it. Are we approaching bubble territory in the U.S. real estate market? Fast rising home prices, check. Out of control bidding wars, check. Investors flooding the market, check. Over the past 2 years, the nation has watched worldly as home prices seem to hit a new record high every month. Many buyers have been offering 6 figures over asking prices to snag properties. It's been uncomfortably reminiscent of the run-up to the housing bust that blew up the world's economy roughly 15 years ago. As the market has progressively heated to a boiling point, most real estate experts swore up and down that the housing market wasn't in a bubble. Mortgage interest rate, and that's true. Mortgage interest rates were so low, the impressive mid 2% range, that buyers could afford the inflated prices, they said. Lenders were no longer making bad mortgages that could trigger another foreclosure crisis. And this time around, a housing shortage that has reached crisis proportions has resulted in many more buyers than properties for sale, just the opposite of the 2007-2008 pre-cash conditions. This market could support the frenzy, they explained, but that might not be true anymore, with mortgage rates soaring to their highest point in more than a decade, hitting 5% last week as they continued their upward march. Many of those same experts are now warning the housing market might be approaching a bubble if it isn't in one already. So Realtor.com is taking the stance, or at least this author is taking the stance that, yes, perhaps we're in a bubble. There's only so much that home buyers can afford before they're priced out of the market. In March, when rates surpassed the 4% mark, the number of buyers applying for mortgages fell 5%, according to the Mortgage Bankers Association. Nationally, buyers are paying about 42% more in their monthly mortgage payments for the same house today than they did a year ago. The potent combo of rising home prices up 14% year over year in March and escalating mortgage rates, which rose nearly 2 percentage points, is at hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a month for those mortgage bills. And on top of what potential buyers are spending on everything else, rents are up about 17% year over year. Inflation is running at 8.5%, and gas prices rose about 40%. Many folks are simply tapped out. How can the system handle skyrocketing home prices, mortgage rates, and rental prices simultaneously? Some believe it can't. We're not in a housing bubble just yet, but we're skating close to one if prices continue rising at the current pace, says George Ratiu, manager of economic research at Realtor.com. Some markets will see a correction if mortgage rates continue to rise, in which sales will drop and prices will follow. But I don't expect to see the market see a huge crash or spike in foreclosures yet. Rate 2 anticipates prices could fall 5 to 15%, depending on the local real estate market. Areas with struggling economies without the good jobs needed to attract new residents, such as the Rust Belt, will likely see larger price declines. Prices are already tumbling in places like Toledo, Ohio, and Rochester, New York. But buyers expecting some pricing relief might be disappointed. Even if prices do fall, home buyers will still be saddled with higher monthly mortgage payments. Rents have risen so quickly that they will likely more than make up for lower prices, costing home buyers even more money. And more desirable communities with plenty of high-paying tech and manufacturing jobs could see prices still continue to rise. You're now starting to see people stretch their budget, says Ali Wolf, chief economist at building consultancy Zonda. The market looks more frothy than it did just 6 months ago. That's what I'm seeing. I mean, people are still buying houses, but it costs them more. It's just costing them more. You know, it's interesting. Like, I'm not trying to marginalize it, or I'm not trying to explain it away. But in my lifetime, we do this kind of wordplay where what something means to one person means something totally different to someone else. And we all think that we know what it means. We all think we're in agreement, and we're not. And so let's go over one that's one of my favorites in the real estate market, and that is affordability. We need to build affordable housing. Well, what you think affordable housing is and your neighbor thinks affordable housing is are two very, very different things. Some people think affordable housing means, set-asides. We're going to set aside this amount of housing in this development for quote unquote affordable housing. That's somehow tied to some sort of, it's below the market rate for a house, this square footage or something like that. That's one type of affordable housing. The next type of affordable housing, or my definition of affordable housing, is being able to go out and be able to buy a house. Like that's it. I mean, because it's based on income. So like if you're making a lot of money, an affordable house to you is going to be totally different than someone else. So in this case, let's look at the housing bubble. Who is defining what a bubble is in real estate? I mean, a 5% correction in the marketplace, is that a bubble? But I mean, I don't think so. What are we going to call it, a downturn? Now, a 40%, decrease in prices, I think that would be a bubble bursting, right? That makes sense to me, but 5% does not. I don't think that's a bubble. So I just think that's interesting. In a way you can say, like, on anything, this is a bubble, and then if it goes down even a little bit, see, I told you. I don't hope for a bubble. I don't hope for a housing crash. I don't hope for anything. I don't want anybody to be hurt. At the end of the day, that's kind of where I'm at. So I guess we should move on to another article. I don't know if you've noticed, I've been much more deliberate today than normal, but it's because of that mistake yesterday. Who's the boss? I thought this was an interesting article. And what I'm going to preface it, or I'm going to say, like, I'm just going to give you the heads up. It's about, like, who's running the show in a real estate transaction. And I'm just going to give you my biases up front. I'm running the show in a real estate transaction. If my buyer hires me, okay, I coordinate the loan. I coordinate the showings. I coordinate the inspections. I can coordinate the closings. I work with other people, but I'm in charge. That's the way I see it. Now, I could be wrong. Let's take a look. It says, buying or selling a home invites multiple players into your world. There are people you will meet and speak with, and there are people involved you will never even know about. And because you're not exactly buying and selling a home every day, it pays to rely on their experience to guide you through the process. Buying a home, especially for first-timers, can be a bit bewildering. It's a foreign process with lots of folks asking for this and asking for that. You'll get plenty of phone calls, text messages, and emails. And lastly, none of them will make a dime until your deal closes. From title companies to mortgage companies to settlement services, they're all betting on the come, which can sometimes lead to a bit of prodding on their part. For example, have you ever heard the phrase buy now? The market is super hot and you need to lock in these prices before they get too much higher. Or have you heard the phrase buy now? prices are at rock bottom and the only way to go is up. It's essentially the same product, just in different circumstances. This advice may certainly be right at the time or maybe not. You can get all the advice you want, but remember whose boss you are. Nothing happens till you flip the switch. Sometimes it's best to take a step back and reevaluate your goals. Do you really want to buy now? Are you comfortable with the proposed monthly mortgage payments? Do you understand all the closing costs involved when you're buying a home? You won't find many agents who will tell you not to buy anything. They typically don't make very much income with that, right? But a good agent will certainly go over the pros and cons of the current real estate market, and it's vital that you pay attention. Yes, this is what I do. For instance, like right now, should I buy a house? If you want to buy a house, buy a house. Is it a great time to buy a house? It doesn't seem that way based on my experience with my buyers currently in the market. I mean, that's for sure. I've always liked the idea of like buy now because the market's high and it can only go higher. Buy now because the market is down, it can only go up. Yeah, I mean that's totally right. But I tell my buyers like it's tough. Market's tough right now. Tell my sellers when the market's so tough for them. But usually when you're selling a house, there's a reason behind it. Maybe it's an estate. Maybe you've outgrown the house. I mean, there's a reason why you're moving, and so sometimes it's not always the best. But anyway, let's continue. But your job at this point is to gather as much information as you can without feeling rushed, and pull away and look at the prospect of buying a home in a new light. The new light is having the information you need in order to make a buying decision. Prior to this new venture, the information that you got wasn't filtered. Perhaps you read something online, or a friend who had already bought a home provided some firsthand experience. Whatever the situation, you've now got the data needed, and it's up to you to decide to move forward. If you feel rushed, let your feelings be known. Sometimes those in the transaction might misread you and think you're ready to sign a contract if only you found the right property, when in reality you're in the exploration mode. Don't be shy about expressing what you're truly thinking, or at least leaning toward. Letting your feelings known up front will make your path a little clearer to navigate. With the right communication, the process becomes so much easier, and you'll have fun instead of feeling like you're being pushed around. Always remember you're the boss. I agree with this. I'm going to close this like this because we're done for today on that. Don't let your real estate agent push you around. Don't feel obligated to go buy a house. Here's how I look at it. I'm happy to show houses to all my clients if they're interested. Now, that being said, you have to be interested in buying a house. It's not like I want to go drive around all day and not write offers. I don't push people to into making offers on houses, but I mean we have to understand that when we go to a house, are we in a position to buy? And what does that mean? Well, that means that we let me put this down. We put ourselves in the best position to buy when we have a pre-approval, when we're actively looking at houses in different parts of town, and we've kind of picked certain locations over others, and we have some criteria to go on with which we're happy. We're not just driving around aimlessly. We're not just looking at houses, $200,000 less than the other house is asking. I mean, that's just a recipe for not buying a house. And so I personally will work with buyers who are committed to buying. Now, we may be in the market and there may not be anything that they like. We may have to look at houses for years, and I'm okay with that. Okay, as long as their willingness is there to buy, and it's not just me being a shuttle service. Because when I'm a shuttle service, then I don't make any money, and I have to make money to feed my family at the end of the day. So you can do that as a real estate agent. You can be very good at that, and not be pressing your buyers, not be forcing them or trying to force them or cajole them into a spot where they're not content, where they're not comfortable. It's as simple as this. Right now in the marketplace, if a house, if they're asking, let's say somebody's asking $200,000, a house probably isn't going to sell for $200,000. It's probably going to be like $240,000, $245,000, at least in St. Louis, at least this weekend. And then so if a buyer is uncomfortable at that number, then we really can't put an offer, and we have to go find another house where they would feel more comfortable. But that's that's just part of the real estate business. Now, I've had buyers that send me false signals. And you say, what's that about? Well, I had a buyer recently that said, I must have this house. Well, if you say that to me, that means we have to bid very, very aggressively if you must have that house. But then when I talked to the person, they're like, no, I didn't really. I was having fun. I didn't really mean that. Because then they were doing it like on every other house. So it was fun. And that's the important thing is you have to have a relationship with your clients to where you understand what their needs are. Okay. And then not bully them into a position that they'd be uncomfortable in as far as, if a house is too expensive, you can't write an offer on it. And you should be the voice of reason in the deal. Buyers and sellers, it's very emotional to buy a house. It's very emotional to sell a house. And so you need to be there to say, hey, does this make sense? Are you still comfortable with this number? But you should never push someone into a situation where they're uncomfortable. I do look at my position as that of a boss, as a ringleader, but I'm like, I don't know how you would otherwise do it. If you tell someone, like, I don't know, I use a consultative approach with buying and selling. So like, if my buyer says, hey, what do you think about this house? This is what I think about this house. And then they can kind of decide on their own if they'd be interested in pursuing it more. It's the same thing on the seller side. This is what I think the house will probably go for, but I'm not 100% certain. Maybe that's not in line with what the seller's thinking. You just never know. So, is it possible that I'm going to cut the show short today? I feel like we've had a very efficient show. Have I been forced to be efficient because of the constraints that I have today? Maybe. But anyway, that's where I'm at today. Look, if you've gotten this far in the show, would you please consider subscribing? I think I've got 10 subscribers. It'd be nice to have 20. Obviously, when I get 20 subscribers, it'd be nice to have 40. I would like that, but I understand. So anyway, thank you for watching. Be here tomorrow at 9. Down the road, if you're watching this a year from now, I'll still be probably around at 9 a.m. on Monday through Saturday with the Deer Realty live stream. And I'd love if you came on the chat and let's have a good time. Okay, well.